Hi there, how are you? I'm Chris from the 3D Palace, and this is MT7. And in MT7, we're going to be making a kind of noir bunker thing, okay? That's about the best kind of description I can give it for the moment. I'm sure I'll come up with something better at some other point. Anyway, this tutorial's been aimed at a range of users. We're going to kind of go over some of our simpler processes, and then we're going to come up to some more complex things a bit later on as we go along. Um, the idea for this is it's going to be modular. I want to make it ideally under 10,000 polygons. Get plenty of detail in there and be left with, fairly detailed yet usable piece that we can use for a game engine or just use lots and lots of in a scene or anything else. Anyway, just a quick introduction, people who've never worked with my workflow before in 3ds Max, okay? These four panes here obviously represent top, front, left and perspective. I normally only work in perspective, so what I tend to do is click down here on the old maximize viewport toggle, and now I can work completely in perspective. And my mouse is playing up a little bit at the moment, my middle mouse button, so if things take a while to select, that's just going to be the reason. Now if you look in the top left corner, I should have key view turned on. It doesn't seem to be working today. Oh well, these things happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get started straight away, and I'm not going to bother building this to real world unit scale. What I'm going to do instead is build it at a scale I want, and then I can scale it up later, as long as I remember to use an X-form reset. And because it's not technically, well, even though it is architecture that I'm building, even though it's not precision architecture of the kind that somebody's going to actually live in, and because I'm basically just being an artist and doing it artistically, I'm not going to measure edges and get everything exact. I'm going to be working by eye. Now, I know a lot of people have problems with that and think it's a very bad thing working by eye, and that's fair enough. However, I'm still going to be working by eye, so there you go. Okay, the first thing I'm going to start out with then is the kind of entryway, which will go round about here. And I'm going to get it to round about the right size as well. Now if I press M, just open up my material browser. I've got it at the moment on compact material editor rather than Slate, because I don't need all of Slate's features at the moment. And I'm going to press F4 just so that I can see my edges. Okay, I'm going to right click, convert to editable polygon, and I'm going to call it bunker, because that is what it is. And I want to start getting the shape right before I do anything else. Okay, next I'm going to start out here, do an extrude, bring that back to there, bring that up to there, and then selecting both sides at the same time, there and there. I'm now going to extrude them out to about there, and then there. And then if I select by edge, which means either pressing number 2 or just pressing this button here, what snaps pressed by mistake, I can then drag these two parts here down like that. Okay? Right. So this is kind of the basic shape here. And if I decide that this part here isn't high enough, I can select my polygon and just bring it up a little bit like that. Just obviously being careful not to damage the shapes that I'm working with if I can help it. Now then, this is symmetrical, so it's probably going to be a little bit easier just to work in symmetry for the time being until I've got the shape I want. So if I just do a connect straight down the middle there, did you see what I did there, by the way? All I did was I marquee grabbed these and clicked connect. I'll stop explaining stuff and just get on with the general talking soon. Okay, now I'm just going to marquee select all these and just click delete. Okay, and now I'm just working on this one side here. Alright? Now then, I've got to kind of work these parts fairly carefully because there's going to be a window about there. So what I'm going to do is try and cut some shapes that I'm going to be using a little bit later. So if I click cut, this will allow me to cut edges into the actual model like so. Okay, and I'm going to cut one from here to here and here to here. Okay, it just gives me slightly more control over the model because now I've got this part here. Now if you don't think these edges here and here are particularly straight, just use a scale. Okay, so that's hotkey R, or just press the scale button and just drag down like that. And that'll just straighten them out. Easy as cake. Alright, next. Just go around this. And I'm going to look at the place where I want my window, which is going to be here. So what I'm going to do is go right the way through here. And I'm going to do a connect. Now this will make quite a wonky looking line, simply because of this shape here. So if I scale it down on the Z-axis, pop that there. Okay, so we've got somewhere. So that's the rough that's the rough kind of shape I want to conform things to. Okay, this is kind of like a scaffold. For anyone who's ever watched any of my longer sets where I tend to do scaffolding work, this is like our scaffold. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do is start building the parts that we're actually going to attach to this. So first of all, when we're building this kind of model, okay, if we're going to build kind of an outside buttress that leads onto it, for example, in this case, for example, something like this. Okay, this is just a simple example of an outside buttress, yeah. It doesn't tend to be a solid block like this. Now, sure, we're going to apply some text. Well, in the game engine, you're going to apply textures to it or shaders or whatever. However, this is still going to be technically made out of separate bricks. Now, you're not going to want to build this from a horde of separate bricks. However, we do want to intimate that it is built out of lots of parts that have been knocked together, okay? So, let's start off over here. And the good thing about building it in a modular kind of manner like this is that we'll be able to build lots and lots of other things using this technique as well. So, create menu, box, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start just here. I'm going to create this part. Okay, and this will become one of our outer buttresses. So I'll call it outer buttress tall 01. That way when we copy it, we'll get more of them. And they'll be renamed 02, 03, and 04, and so on. And I'm just going to start by defining some detail onto this. So right click, convert to editable polygon. And I'm just going to do a bevel at the top. Now I'm not going to go mad for detail here, okay? When it comes to kind of putting tons of detail in, I can always use an edge checks or some other edge finding tool later on. That should be enough. Like so. Maybe a little bit less, in fact, on the top. And you notice I was just using the bevel tool there, rather than just using extrude. That way I can affect both the inset and the extrude simultaneously. If you're not comfortable with that, you don't have to use it that way. It's just the way that I use it. It's just personal preference. Okay, next. I'm going to select here and here. Now, this is going to detail on both sides, so we probably don't want it to do that, but don't worry, we'll come back to that in a moment. First of all, I'm just going to do a loop. So if I just select here and click loop, sorry, ring, not loop. I always select the wrong one and click connect. Do the same here. Okay, we end up with this. It's kind of subdivided, which is what we need. Next, I'm going to start putting some edges into it. So I'm going to go through here, just do a connect and drag this up to the top like so. And then I'm going to do another one round about here, just in the middle. Let's have a look at that, maybe just a little bit higher. It's all about tweaking and just nudging and trying to make your model look nice, okay? Next, I'm going to select these parts, here and here. And what I want to do with these is I want to widen them. So if I use a chamfer, I can widen these until, basically this is thirds, third in, third outset, third inset, third outset. So about there, alright? Like so. Now, right click out to drop chamfer, go straight through the middle, do another connect and bring it down like so. It's important to get our basic shapes ready before we start kind of pulling this in and pushing it out and all this kind of thing. And this is round about the height we want, though we can check it against our scaffold there just to make sure it's going to line up, okay? Which is what we built the scaffold for in the first place. Right then, over here, where these are, let's have a look. I'm going to select by polygon here and here, and I'm going to extrude in on both of these. I'm not going to bevel. I know it'll give me sharp edges, however I'm not going to bevel this time, because obviously that'll give us far too many polygons. Right, so if I just click here in the little settings button, you'll see we get this, which is our new caddy. The only reason I want that is so I can change it from group to by local normal. Then I'm going to click X and I'm going to work freehand instead. I'll just bring it straight in, and this way it'll extrude in by local normal instead. Alright, next what I need to do is just grab these edges here, because this is too shallow a relief at the top here for this arch, which is no use to me. And I'm going to bring it down to around about there. Good and pointed, see? There's always a reason for things. Now, down here, what I need to do is bring out these parts. So, go here and here, and at the bottom here, like so, and I'm going to just extrude them. Now we've already got extrude by local normal turned on for this. So if I go to here and here, and then just drag down, like so. Now, this next part, just want to make capping stones on these. The capping stones should be the same thickness as these ones at the top, really. So I'm going to extrude them. Now this requires slightly more work than before. I'm going to also extrude them up here. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to delete out these middle ones first to prevent us from having any polygonal errors later on. So there, there, and there. There, there, and there. Reason being, I want to be able to attach all these together again later. And I won't be able to do that if I don't. Okay. So just like so. Now, I can go inside and delete off these parts. And these parts. like so. Now, I'm going to move this part in, whilst maintaining the shape, like so. Alright, now, what I can do here is just use the interactive bridging tool. So if I select edge and bridge, I'll bridge up to here, 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 and continue it round. You'll notice that we've gone obviously now from simple polygon modelling to a much more complicated kind, where we're trying to find solutions for holding things together and ways to make our model work that we didn't have to do before. Okay, now this part here is just floating. It's not connected to anything at the moment, and we need it to be. But before we can, we're going to have to kind of go around our model and make sure that these parts are straight. So I'm going to select here and here. Just bring this up, and then here and here, and do the same. Now we have an edge on the inside there, as you can see. It's just unfortunately it's not bound to anything yet. So what we need to do is run cuts along these parts, from here to here to here, and then from here to here, and all the way around, yeah? Don't worry, it'll all make sense, I promise. Okay, so let's try and find a simple way of doing that. If I just go straight through the middle here and do a connect, and I'll just flatten this, because I don't like it when they're all wonky like that. Okay, next I'm going to find the ones that I don't need, and you can see which ones they are, because they don't actually line up. So if I just go to my select mode, oh, I had a lock on. There we go. Just get these, and I'm going to press Control and Backspace just to get rid of them. Now if I have a quick look and see if there's any leftover verts, there shouldn't be, because I pressed Control and Backspace. Great White Buffalo. Control Backspace. That was an excellent film. If any of you guys have seen that film that I'm referring to, and therefore know what I'm talking about, it's a damn good film. Then again, I was alive in the 1980s, so that's probably why I enjoyed it so much. Okay, and just do a loop, and bring this one down as well. And this will make this into a solid edge, rather than what we had already, which was most assuredly not. Okay, and I'm going to link to this rather than the other way around. So target weld. One there. Now I'm going to link down to this one. And there's another one over here. Okay, next I'm going to try and select everything in this, just loop it. As you see, it doesn't especially want to loop, but we're going to force it to. Okay, and now we can scale these all straight, like so, and just check the angles on the inside. The angles on the inside are a teeny bit off, but then again so are these too. If you look, they're compressing a little bit near the top. But you didn't think it'd be quite so hard just putting a capstone on these things. But hey, it is. Okay, now these inside parts here and here. Okay, there we go. And that gives us those shapes there. Next, because of the way these are built, they're now not going to intersect. You'd think they would, but they won't. So now if I grab all these parts here, just do a standard extrude by local normal. Okay, a little bit wide still, but if you look, they're kind of like spade heads at the moment. But we can sort that out and straighten those. Very easy to do. If I just go here and here, and again go into my scale tool, you can just flatten them like so, and like so. There we are. Alright, now up here, which is where we have our arched pieces. And what I'm going to do is select there. Now I'm just going to choose one of these, and I'm going to go into a chamfer. Now if your scale's too small, when you do this you'll find that the chamfer shoots out, so you may have to change your scale a little bit. I'm just going to do it like so. Don't need too many. And for the top here, we actually want it pointed, so that works for me. Okay, we can come and clean up the inside of this later on if you'd like, or whatever. Now, we want to break this up into stone pieces. Before we do though, I'm going to take a copy of it and just move it over here out of the way. That way we've always got another one we can work on. Okay, now let's cut our stone cutter lines into this. Now then, I'm just looking at this, making sure it's not too high. And this part is actually a little bit too high, so because of the way it's being built at the moment, because I haven't got any edges in it, I can just bring that straight down like so. There. It's important to do this first and get this to what you're happy with. And then we can kind of move on. Okay, now in here. And I'm going to break this down into probably about 2 or 3 segments. So do a connect here. And as you can see, it's bonky. So we'll straighten that up. Just using the scale tool. Bring it down just to about there. Okay, now we'll do another one. Still bonky. And this one we're going to put just underneath here. Like that. And then the next one is absolutely fine, as you can see. Okay, next, down here. Do a connect, and again, straighten these out. We want to give the impression, you see, that these are made out of some kind of brick or sandstone or something like that. This one we don't have to straighten. Drop it to about there. And again, just there. Alright. And that gives us these brick patterns we can now use and cut into. Okay. Now, it's best to just practice on one for the moment, so we'll have a quick check. Because what I'm going to do is do a series of operations. Actually, I'll do them all simultaneously anyway, why not? I'm going to do a series of operations on these just to denote where the brick pattern's going to be. Don't worry, it'll all make perfect sense, I promise. Okay, so again, just click loop. As you see, we've got all these separated. And these are now obviously separate areas where the bricks are. So next, what I'm going to do is either extrude it, and the good thing about the extrude is that I can just bring it straight in like so. Make it a negative height, and a negative width. Well, positive width, sorry. Now if I do it that way, you'll notice that it comes to a point on the inside for its depth. And the problem with that is that obviously it shouldn't be like that, but we can actually fix that. So if I change my height a little bit more, I'm going to bring it in a little bit because I don't want it quite so far in. There, that should do it. Now 0.11 for the width, that's okay, just remember that. Because if I now go into chamfer and change this to 0.11. Oh, sorry, that was segments. Okay, we now have a separation in the brick patterns, like so. We can probably improve and increase that a little bit more. Just click OK. And that gives us the impression of the unit actually having some sort of mortar to hold it together or something like that, yeah? Now then, another thing I want to do is just come down and grab these edges here. Just add a little chamfer to the edges here. Round them a little. Okay. So as you see, these are now looking slightly better than they were. Next, down here, because this is a corner piece, I don't want to have these coming all the way out, all the way around. So I just want them on the sides they need to be on. There we are. So I'm going to extrude these. Not too far, just a little bit. Now remember what I said about keeping the edges straight. 9 times out of 10 they won't be. So we can straighten them, just select firstly these ones. And just do that. And then these ones. Now you can only do this obviously if you've created it along the same axis as I have. If you created it like a 30-degree axis compared to this or whatever, then you know you're boned, and that's tough. It's just the way it goes. Alright, so that gives us this piece here. And the good thing about this is obviously that we can then adapt this piece that we've got here to build the other buttresses and the other parts as we need them. So we know, for example, that there's going to be one needed here. Let's go to my top viewport. We can even literally line it up using these. Okay, so now we can also duplicate this. Now I wouldn't apply a mirror to it because you'll just have to reset the X form and then you'll have to, you know, invert the normals. But if you press A for angle snap and then shift and rotate it by just 90 degrees, you can just drag it straight into the right position here. And now you have two rather than one. Yeah? Hopefully you're kind of getting where I'm coming from now. At least I hope you are. Alright. So, next part what we're going to do is work on some more buttresses that are going to go along here and along here. And that will make our doorway, and we'll have one at the back obviously. So until then, see you in the next bit.